The Vedas teach that the soul is divine, only held in the bondage of matter. Perfection will be reached when this bond will burst, and the word they use for it is therefore mukti, freedom, freedom from the bonds of imperfection, freedom from death and misery. And this bondage can only fall off through the mercy of God, and this mercy comes on the pure. So, purity is the condition of His mercy. How does that mercy act? He reveals Himself to the pure heart, the pure and the stainless see God, yea, even in this life. Then and then only all the crookedness of the heart is made straight. Then all doubt ceases. He is no more the freak of a terrible law of causation. This is the very center, the very vital conception of Hinduism. The Hindu does not want to live upon words and theories. If there are existences beyond the ordinary sensuous existence, he wants to come face to face with them. If there is a soul in him which is not matter, if there is an all merciful universal soul, he will go to him direct. He must see him, and that alone can destroy all doubts. So, the best proof a Hindu sage gives about the soul, about God, is I have seen the soul, I have seen God, and that is the only condition of perfection. The Hindu religion does not consist in struggles and attempts to believe a certain doctrine or dogma, but in realizing, not in believing, but in being and becoming. Thus, the whole object of their system is by constant struggle to become perfect, to become divine, to reach God and see God. And this reaching God, seeing God, becoming perfect, even as the Father in heaven is perfect, constitutes the religion of the Hindus. And what becomes of a man when he attains perfection? He lives a life of bliss infinite. He enjoys infinite and perfect bliss, having obtained the only thing in which man ought to have pleasure, namely God, and enjoys the bliss with God. Now, this is what Swami Vivekanand had to say about idol worship. I remember as a boy hearing a Christian missionary preach to a crowd in India. Among other sweet things he was telling them was that if he gave a blow to their idol with his stick, what could it do? One of his hearers sharply answered, if I abuse your God, what can he do? You would be punished, said the preacher, when you die. So my idol will punish you when you die, retorted the Hindu. Superstition is a great enemy of man, but bigotry is worse. Why does a Christian go to church? Why is the cross holy? Why is the face turned towards the sky in prayer? Why are there so many images in the Catholic Church? Why are there so many images in the minds of Protestants when they pray? My brethren, we can no more think about anything without a mental image than we can live without breathing. By the law of association, the material image calls up the mental idea and vice versa. This is why the Hindu uses an external symbol when he worships. He will tell you it helps you to keep his mind fixed on the being to whom he prays. He knows as well as you do that the image is not God, is not omnipresent. After all, how much does omnipresence mean to almost the whole world? It stands merely as a word, a symbol. Has God superficial area? If not, when we repeat the word omnipresent, we think of the extended sky or of space. That is all. As we find that somehow or other, By the laws of our mental constitution, we have to associate our ideas of infinity with the images of the blue sky or of the sea. So we naturally connect our idea of holiness with the image of a church, a mosque, or a cross. The Hindus have associated the idea of holiness, purity, truth, omnipresence, and such other ideas with different images and forms. But with this difference that while some people devote their whole lives to their idol of a church and never rise higher, because with them religion means an intellectual assent to certain doctrines and doing good to their fellows. The whole religion of the Hindu is centered in realization. Man is to become divine by realizing the divine. Idols or temples or churches, books are only the supports, the helps of his spiritual childhood, but on and on he must progress. He must not stop anywhere. External worship, material worship, say the scriptures, is the lowest stage, struggling to rise high. Mental prayer is the next stage, but the highest stage is when the Lord has been realized. Mark, the same earnest man who is kneeling before the idol tells you, him the sun cannot express, nor the moon, nor the stars. The lightning cannot express him, nor what we speak of as fire. Through him they shine. But he does not abuse anyone's idol or call its worship sin. He recognizes in it a necessary stage of life. The child is father of the man. Would it be right for an old man to say that childhood is a sin or youth a sin? If a man can realize his divine nature with the help of an image, would it be right to call that a sin? Nor even when he has passed that stage should he call it an error. To the Hindu, man is not traveling from error to truth, but from truth to truth, from lower to higher truth. To him, all the religions, from the lowest fetishism to the highest absolutism, mean so many attempts of the human soul to grasp and realize the infinite, each determined by the condition of its birth and association. And each of these marks a stage of progress. And every soul is a young eagle, soaring higher and higher, gathering more and more strength till it reaches the glorious sun. It is the same light coming through glasses of different colors, and these little variations are necessary for purposes of adaptation. But in the heart of everything, the same truth reigns. The Lord has declared to the Hindu in his incarnation as Krishna, I am in every religion as the thread through a string of pearls. Wherever thou see extraordinary holiness and extraordinary power raising and purifying humanity, know thou that I am there. And what has been the result? I challenge the world to find throughout the whole system of Sanskrit philosophy any such expression as that the Hindu alone will be saved and not others, says Vyas. We find perfect man even beyond the pale of our caste and creed.
স্বদেশ বিদেশ উছলি উঠিছে তোমার নবীনতন্ত্র, আকাশ বাতাস ধ্বনিয়া তুলিছে তোমার মহন মন্ত্র। স্বদেশ বিদেশ উছলি উঠিছে তোমার নবীনতন্ত্র, আকাশ বাতাস দুনিয়া তুলিছে তোমার মোহন মন্ত্র। নন্দিত ধারা মন্দির মাঝে ধর্মের শ্রক গন্ধ, মোদের বিবেকানন্দ তুমি গো বিশ্ব বিবেকানন্দ, মোদের বিবেকানন্দ তুমি গো বিশ্ব বিবেকানন্দ। অরুণ কিরণ উছলি উঠিল উদিলে যেদিন বঙ্গে, স্বর্গ করিল সুরভি বৃষ্টি বরষি আশিস